The Galactic Academy on Station Prime was one of the oldest schools in the known universe. For over 2,000 years, young aliens from hundreds of different worlds had come here to learn, to train, and to become officers in the galactic fleet. The station floated in the empty space between three star systems, a massive structure of metal and glass that could hold over 50,000 students at any time. Morgan walked through the main corridor with her bag over her shoulder. She was 23 years old, with brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail and eyes that seemed to notice everything. She wore the standard uniform that all first-year students received. She looked ordinary. She looked small. She looked like nothing special at all. But every alien she passed moved out of her way. Had grown used to this reaction during her journey to the station. The transport ship had been filled with students from dozens of worlds, and none of them had wanted to sit near her. They whispered when they thought she could not hear. They pointed when they thought she was not looking. They used a word she had learned to recognize in almost every alien language. Earth had only made contact with alien life 50 years ago. In that time, humans had learned many surprising things about the universe. They learned that faster-than-light travel was possible. They learned that thousands of intelligent species existed across the galaxy. And they learned that Earth was considered one of the most dangerous planets ever discovered. Most species evolved on worlds with gentle climates and stable environments. Their planets had low gravity, calm weather, and few predators. They grew up in paradise. Earth was not paradise. Earth had earthquakes that could flatten cities. It had storms that could tear buildings apart. It had volcanoes that could bury entire regions in ash. It had diseases that could kill millions. And it had predators everywhere, from the sharks in the oceans to the wolves in the forests to the mosquitoes that carried deadly illnesses. On worlds like that, only the strong survived. Only the adaptable lived long enough to reproduce. And over millions of years, humans had become very, very good at not dying. The aliens did not understand this at first. When they met humans, they saw soft skin and dull teeth and weak claws. They saw creatures that could not run very fast or jump very high or see very well in the dark. They thought humans were fragile. Then they learned about human endurance. Humans could run for hours without stopping. They could survive in deserts and jungles and frozen wastelands. They could eat almost anything and drink water that would poison other species. They could heal from wounds that would kill most aliens. They could keep fighting with broken bones and torn muscles and blood loss that should have made them unconscious. And they could kill. Oh, how they could kill. Humans had hunted every predator on their world to near extinction. They had tamed the most dangerous animals and made them into pets. They had invented weapons that could destroy entire cities, entire countries, entire worlds. They had fought wars against each other for thousands of years, developing combat techniques that turned their weak bodies into instruments of death. The galaxy looked at Earth and saw a nightmare. They looked at humans and saw monsters wearing friendly faces. Found her assigned quarters on the 47th level of the residential section. The room was small but clean, with a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out at the stars. She set her bag down and sat on the bed, letting out a long breath. She had wanted this for so long. Ever since she was a little girl watching the stars from her backyard in Colorado, she had dreamed of going to space. When the Galactic Academy announced that it would accept human applicants for the first time, she had worked harder than ever to qualify. She had studied alien languages and customs. She had trained her body and mind. She had done everything right. But she had not expected to feel so alone. A chime sounded at her door, stood and pressed the button to open it. A tall alien stood in the hallway. She had pale blue skin and large black eyes that took up most of her face. Her body was thin and delicate, with long fingers and a graceful neck. She wore the same uniform as. "Hello," the alien said. Her voice was soft and musical. I live in the room next to yours. The orientation guide suggested that neighbors should introduce themselves. Smiled, it was a careful smile, not showing her teeth. She had learned that many species found human teeth frightening. I'm nice to meet you. Hesitated, her large eyes blinked several times. You are the human. I am. I have never met a human before. I have only read about your world. Paused. Is it true that your planet has large predators that hunt in groups and eat their prey alive? We call them wolves and lions and wild dogs, kept her voice calm. Yes, it's true. Shuddered, how do your people survive? We learn to hunt them back. We learn to build walls and make weapons and work together. We adapted. That is remarkable, seemed to be struggling with something. I apologize if this is rude, but I must ask, are you dangerous? Thought about the question. She thought about all the things she could do with her bare hands. She thought about the training she had received since childhood. She thought about the instincts that lived deep in her brain, instincts that had kept her ancestors alive for millions of years. Only to people who try to hurt me, she said finally, or the people I care about. Considered this, that seems fair. Would you like to come in? I was about to make some tea. Well, the closest thing to tea they have on this station. I would like that, stepped inside, still keeping a careful distance. I must admit I am curious about you. My species, though, evolved on a world with very few dangers. We have no predators, our weather is always mild, our gravity is low. She sat in the chair by the desk. We find your world terrifying, but also fascinating. Most humans find it pretty normal, said as she prepared the drinks. You don't notice how dangerous something is when you grow up with it. To me, Earth is just home. Do you miss it? Paused, she looked out the window at the unfamiliar stars. Every day, she admitted, but I wanted to see what else was out there. I wanted to prove that humans belong in the galaxy too. You are very brave. Or very stupid. My mother said the same thing when I left. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. I think I like you, Morgan. You are not what I expected. What did you expect? I am not sure. Something scarier, perhaps. Handed her a cup and sat down on the bed. Give it time. I can be pretty scary when I need to be. She said it like a joke, but somewhere deep in her eyes saw that she was not joking at all. 3 months passed at the Galactic Academy, fell into a routine. She woke early, exercised in her room, attended her classes, studied in the library, and went to bed at the same time every night. She kept her head down. She did not make trouble. She tried very hard to be invisible. It was not easy. The other students watched her constantly. They whispered when she walked past. They moved to the far side of hallways when they saw her coming. In the cafeteria, the tables around her always stayed empty. It was like being surrounded by a bubble that no one wanted to enter. Only seemed willing to spend time with her. The girl had become something like a friend over the weeks. They studied together, ate meals together, and sometimes just sat together in comfortable silence. Asked endless questions about Earth and answered them as best she could. Is it true that humans can function without sleep for days? Asked one evening as they worked on their xenobiology homework. If we have to, said, it's not fun, we get slow and stupid, but we can do it. Fall into a coma if we miss one sleep cycle, our bodies just shut down. That sounds dangerous. It is simply how we are made. What is dangerous is your ability to ignore your body's needs. Shook her head. How have humans not destroyed themselves? We have come close a few times, admitted, but we're stubborn, we don't like giving up. The library door opened and felt the mood in the room change. She did not need to look up to know who had entered. That was impossible to miss. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, with green skin and 4 muscular arms. His face was broad and flat, with small eyes and 2 large tusks that jutted from his lower jaw. He walked like he owned every room he entered. In many ways, he did. They were a warrior species. They valued strength above all else, and was strong even by their standards. He had established himself as the dominant force among the first-year students within weeks of arriving. Those who challenged him ended up in the medical bay. Those who did not challenge him simply learned to stay out of his way. Had been watching him since orientation. She had seen how he picked his targets. He went after the weak, the scared, the ones who could not fight back. He never touched anyone who might actually hurt him. He was a bully, not a warrior. She had avoided him so far. She had kept quiet and stayed invisible, but she knew it could not last forever. The announced as he approached their table. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "I have been wanting to speak with you." Did not look up from her. "I'm studying." "I did not ask what you were doing." Slammed one of his hands on the table. The impact made the whole thing shake. "When I speak, you listen." Around them, the other students had gone silent. Everyone was watching, could feel their eyes on her, could sense their fear. They expected her to submit. They expected her to back down. That was what everyone did when wanted something. Looked up slowly. Her face showed nothing, no fear, no anger, nothing at all. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want to know why you are here. Why would it come to our academy? What are you planning?" "I'm planning to graduate, same as everyone else." Leaned closer. His breath was hot and smelled like rotting meat. "I do not believe you. I think you are here to spy. I think you are here to learn our weaknesses so your people can attack." "That's stupid," said calmly. "If humans wanted to attack the galaxy, we wouldn't need to spy. We just attack." A murmur went through the watching students. No one spoke to like that. The eyes narrowed. "You think you are brave because you come from a dangerous world, but you are nothing. You are small and weak and soft. I could break you with one hand." "Maybe," held his gaze, "but you won't." "Why not?" "Because you're smart enough to know that attacking me would cause an incident. The Academy would investigate. The Galactic Council would get involved. And whatever happened to me, you would face consequences." Paused. "You only hurt people when you know you can get away with it. That's not strength. That's cowardice." The silence in the library was absolute. Stood frozen, his four hands clenched into fists. Could see the muscles in his arms tensing, could see the rage building behind his small eyes. For a long moment, she thought he would attack anyway. Then he laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. "You have spirit, I will give you that." He straightened up and stepped back. "But spirit will not save you forever. Sooner or later we will have a reckoning, and when we do, I will show you what real strength looks like." He turned and walked away, his gang of followers trailing behind him. The other students slowly returned to their work, but could feel the difference in how they looked at her now. Before, she had been a curiosity. Now she was something else. She was someone who stood up too. Whispered, her voice was shaking. "That was incredibly dangerous. He has hurt people for much less than what you said." "I know." "Then why did you do it?" Was quiet for a moment. She watched back as he left the library. "Because someone had to," she said finally. "Because if no one ever stands up to him, he'll just keep getting worse. And because I wanted him to know something important." "What?" Turned back to her. Her face was still calm, still empty of emotion, but saw something in her eyes, something old and patient and deeply unsettling. "That I'm not afraid of him," said, "not even a little bit." That night lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. She had made a mistake today. She had let her temper show. She had challenged a predator in front of witnesses, and predators did not forget challenges. Would come for her eventually. She was sure of it. The only question was when and how. Part of her, the part that had grown up on it, was looking forward to it. She closed her eyes and went to sleep, dreaming of wolves and fire and the sound of bones breaking in the dark. 6 months into the academy year, the hand-to-hand combat assessments began. Every student was required to demonstrate basic fighting skills. It was part of the military training program. meant to prepare future officers for emergency situations where weapons might not be available. Had been dreading this day. She had done well in her other classes. Her grades were excellent. Her instructors praised her work ethic and her intelligence, but she had deliberately held back in physical training. She ran slower than she could. She lifted less weight than she was able. She made herself look weak. Because if anyone saw what she could really do, everything would change. The combat training hall was a large circular room with padded floors and observation windows along the walls. Students gathered in groups, waiting for their names to be called. The instructor was a named Chitter7, an alien with a hard shell and multiple clicking limbs. "Today we assess your combat skills," Chitter7 announced. "You will be paired with a partner of similar size and experience. The goal is to force your opponent to submit or to knock them unconscious. No weapons. No strikes to sensitive areas. Begin when I give the signal." Stood at the edge of the room, watching the first few matches. Most of the students were clumsy and untrained. They grabbed at each other and fell over their own feet. It was almost funny. Then she heard her name called. "Morgan," Chitter7 said, "step forward." Walked to the center of the mat. She kept her shoulders loose and her face blank. She was hopping for an easy opponent, someone she could beat without revealing too much. "I volunteer to face the human." His heart sank, she knew that voice. Stepped forward from the crowd. His forearms were crossed over his massive chest, and his tusked face wore a cruel smile. "I have been waiting for this," he said. Chitter7 hesitated. The size difference was obvious, was more than twice height and probably 6 times her weight. His species was known for their physical power. A match between them seemed unfair. "The weight classes suggest a different pairing," the instructor said. "I waive any claims to injury," said quickly. "Let the prove herself, unless she wants to forfeit." Every eye in the room turned too. She could feel their expectation, their curiosity, their fear. They wanted to see what would happen. They wanted to see if the rumors about humans were true. Took a slow breath. She had spent 6 months hiding what she was. She had played the part of a harmless student, had smiled and kept quiet and pretended to be normal. But she was not normal. She had never been normal, and she was tired of pretending. "I accept," she said. A murmur went through the crowd. Smile widened. He thought this would be easy. He thought she was just a small, soft creature he could crush without effort. He had no idea what he was facing. They took their positions on opposite sides of the mat, dropped into a fighting stance, all 4 arms raised. His species fought by grabbing their opponents and squeezing them until bones broke. It was a simple but effective technique. Stood with her arms at her sides. She did not raise her guard. She did not crouch or tense. She just waited. "Begin," Chitter7 said. Charged. He was fast for his size, crossing the distance between them in 2 huge strides. His arms swept out to grab her, to catch her in his crushing grip. He grabbed empty air. Had moved, not backward where he expected her to go. Sideways, slipping past his reaching arms like water flowing around a rock. She was inside his guard now, close to his body, where his long arms could not reach. Her elbow drove into his stomach. Grunted in surprise. The blow was harder than he expected, much harder. He tried to turn to grab her, but she was already moving again. Her foot hooked behind his leg, her hands pushed against his chest. It was a simple technique, using leverage instead of strength, redirecting his own weight against him. Fell. The impact shook the floor. Before he could recover, was on him. She moved like something from a nightmare, fast and precise and utterly without mercy. Her arm wrapped around his neck from behind. Her legs locked around his torso. She squeezed. "Submit," she said. Her voice was calm, patient, empty. Roared and thrashed. He reached back with all 4 arms, trying to grab her, trying to pull her off. But she adjusted her position with each attempt, always staying just out of his grip. The choke was cutting off the blood to his brain. He could feel himself growing weak, feel his vision starting to darken at the edges. He could not breathe. He could not think. But he would not give up. He would not lose to this tiny creature. His hand found her leg. He squeezed. Felt the pressure immediately. Were incredibly strong, even when they were being choked. Her femur, the strongest bone in the human body, began to bend under the force. Pain shot through her like lightning. He was trying to break her leg. "Last chance," she whispered. "Submit." Squeezed harder, she heard her bone begin to crack. Something inside changed. She had been holding back. Even now, even in this fight, she had been using only a fraction of her real strength, her real speed, her real skill. She had been trying to end this without causing permanent damage. But had made his choice. He would rather cripple her than admit defeat. On Earth, there was a name for people like that. They were called predators, and had been dealing with predators her whole life. Her grip shifted, her arm tightened, and with one smooth, powerful motion she twisted. The crack echoed through the silent room. Went limp. Released him and rolled away, clutching her injured leg. The pain was incredible, waves of fire shooting through her with every heartbeat. But she did not scream. She did not cry. She just sat there, breathing slowly, watching his motionless body. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The students stared at the scene before them, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Then Chitter7's voice cut through the silence. "Medical team to the training hall, now." Looked down at her hands. They were shaking slightly, not from fear, from adrenaline. She had not wanted this. She had spent months trying to avoid exactly this situation. But when the moment came, when she had to choose between being crippled or defending herself, there had been no choice at all. Humans did not let predators win. That was not how they survived. As the medical team rushed into the room, closed her eyes and let herself feel something she had been suppressing for 6 months. Relief. The pretending was finally over. The medical bay was cold and white and smelled like chemicals did not recognize. She sat on an examination table while a doctor scanned her leg with a device that hummed softly. Behind a curtain on the other side of the room, a team of specialists worked on. He was still alive, had felt his pulse before she let go. She had broken his neck, but not completely. The spinal cord was damaged but not severed. With the right treatment, he would recover. She had meant to do exactly that much damage, no more, no less. Commander stood before her. He was tall with pale blue skin and the black eyes of his species. He was in charge of student discipline at the academy, and his face showed no emotion as he studied her. "Tell me what happened," he said. His voice came out flat and tired. "He was going to break my leg, so I broke his neck." "You used a killing technique." "I used the minimum force necessary to stop him from crippling me permanently." Met his eyes. "On Earth, that's called self-defense." "This is not Earth." No, his gaze was steady. "On Earth, I would have done worse." Was quiet for a long moment. He had already reviewed the footage from the training hall. The cameras had captured everything in perfect detail. His calm stillness before the fight, her sudden, explosive movement when it began, the way she had controlled his body like he weighed nothing, the final twist that ended the match. It had taken less than 30 seconds. "The delegation is demanding your expulsion," said finally. "They are calling this an unprovoked attack on one of their citizens." The footage shows otherwise. Footage can be interpreted in many ways. Family is powerful. They have connections to the Galactic Council. So does the Terran government. His voice was still calm, but there was something underneath it now, something hard. "If you expel me for defending myself, Earth will consider it an insult. And trust me, Commander, you do not want to insult Earth." Studied her face. He had dealt with many species over his long career. He knew how to read body language, how to spot fear and weakness and deception. But looking at this small human female, he saw none of those things. What he saw was far more unsettling. Complete confidence, absolute certainty, the quiet calm of someone who had faced worse threats than him and survived. "You're not afraid of the consequences," he said slowly. "You're not afraid of anything, are you?" "I'm afraid of plenty of things," said, "but not this, not you and not." "Why?" "Because fear is a luxury for species that evolved on safe worlds. Where I come from, fear gets you killed. We learned to control it a long time ago." The doctor finished her scan and stepped back. "Her leg is fractured in 2 places," she reported. "I can repair the damage, but she will need rest." "Thank you," nodded to the doctor, then turned back to, "The council will review the evidence and make a decision. Until then, you are confined to your quarters. Do you understand?" "I understand." Good paused at the door. "One more thing. The psychological profiles we have on humans are incomplete. Your species is still new to us. But what I saw in that footage, the way you fought, the way you stayed calm even when he was crushing your leg, that was not normal, even for a—" "I've had training," said simply. "What kind of training?" "The kind every human gets. How to survive, how to fight, how to kill if we have to." She looked at him with those steady eyes. "You asked why humans are so dangerous. That's why. We're raised to be dangerous. From the time we can walk, we learn how to deal with threats. It's in our schools, our games, our stories. It's in our blood." "And you asked, what are you exactly?" Smiled. It was a small smile, but somehow it made one to step back. "I'm a survivor," she said. "That's all any human is, really. We survive whatever the universe throws at us. And when something tries to stop us, we survive that too." That night came to visit in her quarters. Those large eyes were wet with tears, and she could not stop her hands from shaking. "I saw the footage," said. "Everyone has. It's all anyone is talking about." "I'm sorry you had to see that." "I'm not," sat down on the edge of his bed. "I mean, it was terrifying, but I'm glad you're okay. When he was crushing your leg, I thought he was going to kill you. He was going to cripple me. That would have been worse in some ways." "Worse than dying?" "For a human, yes," shifted her injured leg carefully. "The medical treatment had helped, but it still ached. We don't handle helplessness well. We'd rather die fighting than live as victims." Was quiet for a moment. "Is that why you didn't stop, even when he was hurting you?" "Partly, but mostly it was because I knew something he didn't." "What?" "That pain is temporary. That fear is controllable. That no matter how strong someone is, they can be beaten if you're willing to pay the price." Looked at her friend. Thought his size made him invincible. But size doesn't matter when you know where to apply pressure. A small force in the right place can break anything. "That's terrifying." "I know, I'm sorry." "Don't be," reached out and took his hand. Her grip was gentle, almost hesitant. "I'm glad you're my friend. I'm glad you're on my side." "Always," said. "That's how humans work. We pick our people and we protect them, no matter what. Even if it means getting hurt. Especially then. That's what it means to be part of a pack." Nodded slowly. She did not fully understand. Her species did not have the same instincts, the same deep-rooted loyalty to their chosen groups. But she could see the truth in his eyes. This strange, frightening, wonderful creature would die for her, without hesitation, without regret. It was the most alien thing she had ever encountered. And somehow, it was also the most beautiful. "Thank you," whispered. "For what?" "For being you, for not pretending to be something you're not." Laughed softly. "I tried pretending for 6 months. It didn't work out so well." "Maybe that's because you weren't meant to hide. Maybe you were meant to show the galaxy what humans really are." "And what's that?" Smiled. It was a shaky smile, still touched with fear, but it was real. "Survivors," she said. "Just like you said. the most stubborn, determined, impossible survivors the universe has ever seen. 2 weeks passed before the Galactic Council made its decision. Spent most of that time in her quarters, reading and exercising and waiting for news. Visited every day, bringing food and gossip and updates about what was happening in the wider station. The story of the fight had spread far beyond the Academy. News channels across the galaxy were running reports about the human who had defeated a warrior with her bare hands. Some called her a hero, others called her a monster, most just called her fascinating. When the verdict finally came, it was delivered by Commander himself. He appeared at her door one morning within his hand and a strange expression on his face. "The Council has reviewed all evidence," he said. "The security footage, the medical reports, the testimony from witnesses, and they have reached a conclusion. Waited. All charges against you have been dropped. The footage clearly shows attempting to cause permanent injury rather than accepting defeat. Your response was deemed appropriate self-defense under Galactic Military Code Section 17, Paragraph 4. Let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," handed her "There's more." The delegation has formally withdrawn their complaint, but they did so under pressure from an unexpected source. "What source?" "Your government." The Terran ambassador contacted the Council personally. She made it very clear that Earth considers you a valuable asset and that any negative action against you would be viewed as an unfriendly act. Looked at It contained a message from the Terran Integration Office, marked with official seals. "Cadet Morgan," the message read, "your actions have been reviewed at the highest levels. While we encourage discretion when possible, we recognize that you were placed in an impossible situation and responded appropriately. You have demonstrated the qualities that make humanity strong: courage, skill, and the willingness to protect yourself when others will not. Continue your studies, make us proud, and remember that Earth stands behind you." Read the message twice, then set the down. She was not sure how to feel: proud, relieved, frightened. "There's one more thing," said. "Has recovered. He will need several more months of treatment, but the doctors expect a full recovery." "I know, I kept track of his condition." Raised an eyebrow. "You cared about his survival." "I didn't want to kill him, I just wanted to stop him." That level of control is remarkable. Most beings in that situation would not have been able to hold back. Humans have had a lot of practice. Stood up from her bed, testing her injured leg. It was almost fully healed now. "We learned a long time ago that killing should be the last option, not the first. It's one of the things that separates us from the animals we evolved alongside. And yet you were willing to kill if necessary." "Of course, mercy is a gift you give to those who deserve it," was trying to cripple me for life. He didn't deserve mercy in that moment. Met's eyes. But once he was no longer a threat, there was no reason to take his life. That's not strength, that's just cruelty. Studied her for a long moment. "You are a very strange creature, Morgan." "I'm a human. We're all strange by galactic standards." "Yes, I'm beginning to understand that." The next day returned to her classes. She expected hostility, fear, isolation. What she found instead surprised her. Respect. The students who had avoided her for months now nodded when she passed. Those who had whispered behind her back now spoke to her directly. Even's former followers kept their distance, not out of hatred, but out of something closer to awe. She had proven herself, not as a monster, but as a warrior who followed a code. She had defended herself when attacked. She had shown mercy when she could, and she had refused to be a victim. That afternoon, she found waiting for her on the observation deck. "You're famous now," said as sat down beside her. "The whole galaxy knows your name." "I'd rather they didn't." "Too late," smiled. "But I think it's a good thing. For 50 years, other species have been afraid of humans without really understanding why. Now they have a story to tell, A story about a human who fought a warrior twice her size and won through skill, not savagery. Is that how people are seeing it? Most of them, the ones who watch the full footage anyway, they see how you held back, how you gave him chances to surrender, how you only hurt him as much as you had to, paused. They're calling you the merciful monster. Laughed. It was a real laugh, the first one she had allowed herself in weeks. That's ridiculous. Maybe, but it's also true. You could have killed, everyone knows that, but you didn't. And that choice, that restraint, that's what people remember. They sat together in silence for a while, watching the stars drift past the viewport. Ships came and went, carrying cargo and passengers to distant worlds. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and was finally a part of it. "What happens now?" asked. "I keep studying, I graduate, I become an officer in the fleet," shrugged. "Same as always." "And Earth, what happens to your planet?" Thought about her home, the mountains and oceans, the cities and forests, the billions of humans living their lives, surviving their world, building their future. "Earth will be fine," she said. "It's been trying to kill us for millions of years and we're still here. A few nervous aliens won't change that." "I think you're right," leaned against her friend's shoulder. "I think humans are going to surprise a lot of people." "We usually do. It's one of our best qualities." "Along with surviving." "Along with surviving," smiled. "That's the thing about, we don't just survive our planets, we survive everything, and we come out stronger on the other side." Far below them, in the medical bay, woke from a restless sleep. His neck was still in a brace, his body still weak from weeks of treatment, but his mind was clear for the first time since the fight. He remembered everything, the speed of her movement, the impossible strength hiding in that small body, the calm, patient voice asking him to submit. And he remembered the moment she could have killed him, and chose not to. He had called her weak, he had called her soft, he had thought she was prey. He had been wrong. In the darkness of his recovery room, made a decision. When he returned to classes, he would not seek revenge. He would not challenge her again. Instead, he would watch. He would learn. And maybe, if he was very lucky, he would begin to understand what it truly meant to be strong. Because strength was not about size or muscle, or the ability to hurt others. Strength was about knowing when to fight and when to stop, about protecting what mattered and letting go of what did not. The human had taught him that. The girl who sat so calmly until someone gave her no choice but to act. He would not forget the lesson. None of them would.